Hello again! After a somewhat long period of lack of motivation and time, I finally managed to turn my second doll from the Ken series into Lucas Gray from Hitman. I already made Agent 47 from the same model, the link to the video is in the description. Here you can see how the doll looked before and how 47 looks now, even in the same hipster clothes. The process was similar to 47. I undressed the doll and beheaded it. Then I removed the hair, but this time I saved it because I need it again later. You will see what I do with it. When I removed the hair, I got into the head with a screwdriver and loosened the glued parts of the remaining stubble. I was able to easily pull these out with tweezers. The next step was to remove the industrial makeup. I used simple nail polish remover with acetone. You can also use pure acetone, but since you can get nail polish remover quite easily in the drugstore, I always use that. It works pretty well with a couple of cotton pads. Now that the head was clean, I worked with milliput. This is a modeling clay that you have to mix in equal parts. I've already worked with it on Agent 47 and I'm still very satisfied. It hardens well and sticks to almost all surfaces. With a little bit of water you can make the surface smooth and even work on it further after it has dried. The big advantage of a normal air drying compound is that the individual components do not dry out, so I can mix as much as I need and use the rest later. Just like Agent 47, Lucas Gray has very pronounced eyebrow bones. In fact, Lucas has many more features than 47 I noticed while modeling. His face is instantly recognizable, but this made modeling much more difficult. He doesn't have the standard face like 47, which is basically what the doll comes with. So this time I had to do a lot more work. Lucas got a new forehead, a new nose and new cheekbones. Because I had sculpted so much mass onto the head, I quickly noticed that his chin area now looked a bit weird. So I had to do some touch-ups here too. Lucas has a very prominent chin and very sunken cheeks, almost more so than 47. This gives him a bit of a pout, I think. It led to me having to redo his lips as well. With 47 I had the luxury and could leave the lower half of the face untouched, as Ken's face was already very similar to his. In the end I worked on Lucas' head for almost 2 hours until I was about the way I wanted it. It's quite a shame since the beard took a lot of detail, but you will see about that later. While the head was drying, I wanted to get started on his clothes. Since I had already had some practice with 47, the trousers went relatively quickly, and even though Lucas' look seems rather casual, he still seems to wear cloth trousers all the time. So, well, he basically got the same trousers as 47. The belt was also made of imitation leather, just like 47's belt. Since Lucas has a different buckle, I didn't have to go through the drama with a wire, but could use a pre-made buckle I made from modeling clay. I added Velcro to both the trousers and the belt so I could take the cloth on and off. The t-shirt was supposed to be simple. To avoid having to work with patterns, I roughly took Lucas' measurements and quickly made him a black t-shirt. Since the neckline was a bit too big for me, I sewed the neckline after all. And fun fact, I used an old t-shirt of mine for Lucas' t-shirt. That way I didn't have to sew the bottom hem. When the head was dry, I had to sand it a little. Again, I used my buffer for nails and it worked just perfectly. Since Lucas is not that pale, I gave him some skin color with acrylic paint. Finally, I started on the makeup. I may have applied a bit too much blush, but it made his cheekbones stand out more. And unlike 47, I didn't model Lucas' eyes. So I just had to paint them on, which worked just as well, I think. With 47 it made sense to model extra eyeballs, but with Lucas it just simply wasn't possible because he has such prominent eyebrow bones and hooded eyelids that I couldn't work as precisely with my tools. In the end, it worked anyway, and he got his nice green eyes. Even though Lucas would still get hair, I wanted to give him his barcode. And interestingly, we never saw his barcode in the entire series, which made me wonder at the beginning if Lucas wasn't perhaps lying and wasn't actually Subject 6. Well, but in the end, I do believe it was him. After all, 47 recognized him immediately, even without the antidote. But back to the doll. For Lucas' beard, I thought long and hard about whether to draw it or flock it. In the end, I decided to flock it, so I took out the old hair from the Ken doll and cut off very small hairs. This created a little pile of hair pieces that I pressed onto Lucas' face with a thin layer of glue. I used Mod Podge for this, as it dries transparently and is easy to handle. Again, Lucas needed to dry, so I set to work on his jacket. The experience I had with 47's suit jacket gave me lasting PTSD, so I already knew it would cost me a lot of time and nerves. But actually it went quite well. With the patterns from 47 already prepared, I cut out the rough part of the jacket and sewed it up. I wasn't sure what kind of lining the jacket had, or if there was a lining at all, so I just used a fabric that I thought looked nice. The jacket has leather trim in a few places, which I made with fabric from an old pair of leather-like leggings. The fake leather I used for the belt was way too thick for the small places. I glued the whole thing on as best as I could. Unfortunately, I misjudged the size a bit, but I was able to correct it afterwards. Unfortunately, I didn't film the buckles for the sleeves, but basically I just glued a strip of green fabric against 2 strips of leather leggings here. The glue was again my best friend. The jacket has leather trims on almost all the hems, which I tried to recreate. The problem here arose from the choice of glue. The green fabric reacted very strongly with my super glue, so some of the fabric got hot and even hardened. Regrettably, the front of Lucas' coat is very stiff now, but since I didn't want to redo the whole coat, this is a fact that I and Lucas have to live with. I had already made the buttons out of modeling clay and painted them black. Lucas' jacket has 2 buttons on each sleeve, but I ran out of space, so I left that 1 button per sleeve. The collar was again a problem. All in all, it was a bit too big again, although I had already shortened it a lot. I realized too late that I should have sewn it on further at the front so that it would lie so, nicely in front of the face. Now, unfortunately, the collar is a bit too short and lies more in the neck, but at some point I lost the motivation to redo the collar. So finally, I sewed the bottom hem and declared the jacket finished. I certainly liked it on the doll. Lucas' head was dry in the meantime and finally got his hair. For this, I bought normal wool, which was about the same color as his hair. I had a hard time with the color, to be honest, because in some scenes it looked black and in some it was almost washed out blonde, white, and in some he had dark gray hair. Since he has dark gray in the official model photos, I decided on the dark gray. After all, his name is Gray and he has to live up to his name. I cut the wool into small pieces and knotted them to my modeling tool. You can use whatever you like, as long as you have the threads hanging open next to each other. Then you can comb out the wool with a steel brush for animals. This creates something like hair. It's very fine and fits very well for small dolls. For larger dolls, it is better to use synthetic hair, but for Lucas' hairstyle, the individual hairs would have been way too thick. So I got a pile of wool that I could use for Lucas' hair. Cut small and armed with Mod Podge, I glued the hair on piece by piece. It looked very funny in between, and in the end, Lucas was a chic drag queen with lots of volume for a day. When the glue was dry, I brushed his hair again and finally gave him a haircut. Even though I was surprised how good long hair looked on him. I used some hair gel to shape his mop. Lucas and 47 also share the same shoes, so I just ordered 2 pairs. Last but not least, Lucas was finally allowed to get his body, and ta-da! With that, Lucas Gray was done! And because I gave 47 a photo shoot as a present, Lucas was, of course, allowed to have one too. Thanks for watching, and I hope you enjoyed it. Let me know if the 2 dolls are pretty cringe or quite cool. Thank you so much again, see you soon, and ciao for now!